watched Kamala Harris's first interview today, her first since she became the nominee almost 6 weeks ago. And this was the preview CNN was playing ahead of that interview.
The climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act.
It basically sums up Kamala Harris's ongoing obsession with word salads and burdening Americans with her bizarre jargon. But what struck me the most is that she needed a babysitter with her. Why on earth was Tim Walz, her vice presidential pick, there? Did she need an emotional support person? Did she need reassurance? I mean, she is the one who is running for president, not him, yet he spent most of the interview sat there like a spare part. And bear in mind, this interview was a long time coming. Kamala Harris has refused to do any interviews or press conferences since the Democrat elite punted old Joe Biden in favour of her. Therefore, there have been zero opportunities to properly scrutinise her and her policies, or lack thereof. She's avoided it. And today she does her first interview, pre-recorded, so not live, and therefore we don't know how much was edited and cut out. She chose a network where most Democrats feel at home, CNN, one of the most liberal media outlets in America, you know, the same one that covered up Joe Biden's cognitive decline for years.
President Biden, who I've been around numerous times just in this last year, is sharp, he's focused, he's bright.
I was in almost every meeting with the president, and the president was in front of and on top of it all.
He is good in small settings, yes, and he's a good small talker, and he puts you at ease if you're in a small group with him.
And the journalist, CNN's Dana Bash, who has shown extreme pro-Democrat rhetoric on multiple occasions. But the bizarre thing is, Kamala Harris could not do the interview alone. She had to do it with Tim Walz. And look at the optics of this. They are sitting at a black table like they're about to break bread and have lunch, except, of course, this is actually meant to be a serious interview setup. Yet Kamala looks small and just awkward in the middle. And if you look closely, Tim Walz's collar is not even sitting right. And while Kamala takes most of the questions, Walz is left there to look around, and all he can really do is nod his head, at times so violently I thought he would even pull a muscle. The optics are so off. And it suggests that this woman, who wants to be the President of the United States, is unable to do solo interviews, unable to stand up for herself, and has generally no idea what to do when not staring at an auto cue. And when she does an interview, she has to have a babysitter. She needs someone holding her hand. Now, the strategy of staying silent has worked so far for Kamala Harris. She is slightly ahead of Trump in the latest national polling, 48 to 45. The real test, though, will come on September 10 when she faces off with Donald Trump in a presidential debate with no auto cue and no babysitter. Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. Kosha, thanks for joining me. I feel like it fell completely flat. It was the same old repeated lines she gave, and she wasn't really pushed on key issues. But what did you make of Kamala Harris's interview today?
You know, I think so. Her main goal coming into this was to not blow it, if you will, because the polls have been tightening and she is a little bit ahead. So even if she just could be normal and not have any big disasters, she would probably consider that a win because she's not known to be a great communicator or orator. So it was more like not having to flub. And from that barometer, I would say she probably did okay, but I think flat is a very good word to describe it. She didn't come across as commanding or strong or substantive or any of that. And the optics, which you touched on there, Danica, I think that's actually what's going to be remembered by people, where it's sort of a little bit of inside baseball here for your viewers and media, but when you're on set with somebody, they always adjust the height of the chair so that you're roughly in frame with the people around you. And I don't know why her handlers allowed her to look that way. She sort of looked, people calling it kind of like a schoolgirl. She was looking down a lot and losing eye contact. She was significantly smaller and shorter than everybody else. So that part, I think, unfortunately, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's almost going to carry through more than the substance of what she said or lack thereof.
Absolutely, just looked so awkward and uncomfortable. And I've got to say that Tim Walz looked like a spare part for most of this interview, having to just sit there and nod until he was questioned over his military history. Now, he was asked about why he said he carried weapons in war but was never deployed in a war, and this was his answer.
People are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
Kosha, what a bizarre and quite frankly insulting excuse to genuine military personnel. Him saying, "Oh, you know, I'm the everyday man." He didn't fight in a war, period. You don't say you did when you didn't. Why is he so desperately downplaying this?
You know, I think he's trapped because all of these things have come under greater scrutiny now that he's on the national stage, and it happened in such short order. And yes, there were people who had investigated this, some independent journalists back during his congressional and gubernatorial run in Minnesota, but never quite to this level. And I think he's sort of between a rock and a hard place where he's only got one option: either apologize, and the fact is that he has repeatedly said that, so that the apology would be very tough to do, or pretend and obfuscate, and he's clearly going for option B. I think they are miscalculating this the ticket on this issue, because regular people, they're civilians and haven't served in the military. Maybe they're not following the weeds and they don't care that much. But the military vote, 20 million people are active or veterans of the United States military. If you look at their family, that's 30, 40 million people that really, really care about this. They know what it means. And will that translate into a swing of 10,000 votes in the battleground states? And it remains to be seen. But I think this is a bigger deal than the mainstream media is picking up for it to be.
Absolutely. Look, we're almost out of time, but I've got to ask you about Joe Biden, because he's not even pretending to run the country anymore. He's now lounging around on the beach for another week. We've got some vision here. Taken just yesterday, there he is, sitting enjoying himself. Look, I've got to say, as he probably should be, he should not be president of the United States. But Kosha, who is actually running this country right now?
The shadow government, certainly people we haven't elected. I don't think it's Kamala, because she's out there campaigning. And it is scary because we've got a world on fire right now, and the leader of the free world is non-compos mentis and on this permanent vacation. It's not good. I would not be surprised if we see something happen in October, the October surprise, that actually elevates Kamala to the top job, where he resigns prematurely, and that way she gets to actually technically be the incumbent come election day. I don't know if that'll happen, but I would not be surprised if it does.
Yeah, I would not be surprised either, to be honest, at this point. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for joining us on the show this evening.